Jai Gurudev. And there are no words to express this chapter, no?
Yeah, Jai Gurudev. We can start the Manana. Suma, you can get started. Thank you.
Yeah, any manana on this 12 verses of this chapter? Anybody wants to share anything? Or we'll go to Atma bodha. I feel very blessed to hear this chapter and it's kind of
Hari Om.
goosebumps.
Hari Om. We will just recall those names where Bhagwan's meditative Prabhu, Hey Prabhu, Hey the Purushottama, Hey Yogeshwara. Sanjay had said, no? Yogeshwar.
Arjuna said.
Yeah. Very beautiful. Today's session was
Parameshwara.
completely meditative. Very nice. Any other name? Hey Prabhu, Hey Purushottam.
Parameshwara, Lord. Purushottama. And Yogeshwara. Lord of the yogis. And this shloka also I liked. That Lord, the diversity of the many thousands of forms. Nana vidhani, divyani, nana varna akritini. So many colors and forms, many varieties, and everything effulgent in hundreds and thousands. And I like this thing, Bhagavan tells Arjuna, getting Arjuna ready to see this, his Vishwarupa. So it's kind of a anticipation he's building up, no? When we hear also, it builds up in us as well. And this word, that Adrushya Purvani, never seen before. I think every verse is kind of brings out something happens when you read, no? Every word is exhilarating words. Every verse. See in my body here today. See the entire world, movable and immovable, in one place, Arjuna. And anything else you wish to see. How compassionate you are. Drishyam ischami.
Jai Gurudev.
Hmm.
Nanaji was explaining, I thought along with Sanjay and Arjuna, he too got that divya chakshus, and I क्या बोलते हैं हिंदी में रोंगटे खड़े हो जा रहे थे when he was explaining.
Yeah. I had the same question whether Sanjaya also got the Divya Darshanam, but now that it is on the 10th day that Sanjaya is telling, and this happened even before the war broke out. So Sanjaya did not, I think so, I'll have to ask Nanaji tomorrow. Sanjaya did not see it on that day, but was still blessed to recall what happened on the first day and still see this. No? Or is it just Vyasa describing through Sanjaya? These questions came up in me.
I mean, I didn't get this. I mean, Sanjay started narrating this after 10th day of in the
war.
Kurukshetra, is it? Oh, is it?
Yes.
So whatever he tells before, it's a recollection. It's like a rewind thing, is it?
Yeah. Replay.
Okay.
Okay. So Sanjaya said, these are the words, no? Lord of the yogis. He also calls him Mahayogeshwara. Sanjaya calls him Mahayogeshwara, the limitless Lord of the yogis, of all yogis, and Harihi, whose grace destroys all papa, sins. His wondrous all-inclusive form. This is also very profound because he does not exclude anybody, including Arjuna is in Krishna. So all-inclusive. That is where Arjuna missed. This all-inclusive. Rupam Avishwaram. His wondrous all-inclusive form. And Bhagwan's description, this was also, heart was beating so fast. One that spanned in all directions. The same thing Yashoda Maya also got this Rupa, Vishwarupa, when she looked into his mouth, but she could not hold it. The same Vishwarupa was shown to her as well. Thousands of weapons waste for use, which we don't even know.
Hari, I was just wondering why Divya Gandha Anulepanam but now I realize that he wanted Arjuna's all senses to be engaged in looking at him. So smell, looks, everything. I mean, that's why it is. He did not leave any point where his mind will go somewhere else. I mean, all indriyas are engaged.
So true. Anantam, endless. Vishwatomukam, in all directions. So
and I think that is the reason even in temples we have all these things like God is decorated, and then there will be nice incense, all of that sound, music.
True.
Isn't it?
Yeah. To engage all our senses as well.
And the effulgence of the Lord says 1,000 suns. They appear simultaneously in the sky. So imagine the brilliance. No.
Very good. Are we doing Atma
This
bodha today?
only. Yeah, I'll stop here. I'll share Atma bodha. Okay, I have to 1 minute. Can you all see Atma bodha? Verse 30 we were in, no? Okay. Anyone wants to read? I can't read Sanskrit or Hindi. I can do the English.
Sumaji, I just put my eye drops because I have to
Okay.
read Jaipur. I'm really sorry. Otherwise, I could have read.
Okay, I'll just read the English then, or anyone wants to read the Hindi can read.
Yeah, Jai Gurudev, Suma. This thing, is this Swami Chinmayananda's commentary that you're sharing, or is it the other disciple?
The one that you had shared, is there anything else?
Uh,
Okay,
yeah,
I will go
we were
back to that.
we were following Swami Chinmayananda's commentary. So if you're able to share that, that's fine. But otherwise, it's fine. You can continue with this. But we were following that.
Okay, I will get that. Yeah, I'm following the same. This is what I have downloaded both the times. So I will read this for
It's okay.
today.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, negation of all conditions, the neti neti, the doctrine of negation. By the process of negation of all conditions, as per the scriptural statement, not this, not this. No, the oneness proclaimed by the Mahavakya. The individual soul is the supreme soul. Jivatma Paramatma Naha. In this verse, the central objective of all our sadhana is highlighted. Neti neti, refers to the negation of all the upadhis, which keeps us separated from our identity with our true self. This negation process is a sadhana of discrimination done within the intellect. By seeing the defects at each level of existence, the intellect rejects the falseness level by level. This is done at two major levels, namely the Pindananda and the Brahmananda. These are the individual level and the cosmic level, the microcosm and the macrocosm. The reason for this rejection is that they are seen to have falseness as their basis. For this reason, this process is also referred to as defalsification. The upadhis are the three bodies at the individual level, the three prapanchas at the cosmic level. At every level, whatever we have been identified with is examined carefully and their connection with us is falsified. This is the essence of neti process. By this process, we clear the veils which hide the self from our direct experience of it. Upon completing such a process of sadhana, the self stands before us revealed. Ajnana Vishishta Chaitanya. This is the philosophical term given to the human predicament. It means the self is veiled by ignorance. Another term used is Ajnana Upahita Chaitanya, which means the self is conditioned by ignorance. The word Upahita is connected to Upadhi. Upadhi is that which conditions, whilst Upahita is that which is conditioned. By removing all that which conditions the self and renders it as the conditioned self or jiva, the latter is restored to its original pristine pure state. This is realized state or the enlightened state. In the next three verses, this process is clarified for each stage of sadhana, shravana, manana and nididhyasana. Anyone wants to share anything here? So this is where that Atma Ashtakam comes, no? Mano buddhya hankara chitta ninaham. That's what comes to my mind. That I am not this body, I am not this mind, the thought. That's the neti, no?
Jai Gurudev Rasumaji, do you want me to read the Sanskrit version?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay, Jai Gurudev.
Yeah, so you can read verse 31.
Shariradi Drishyam Bruhut Vatcharam Etat Dvikshanam Vidya Daham Brahmeti Nirmalam.
So the body, etc., up to the causal body are perceivable objects, perishable as bubbles. Realize, I am different from these. I am the ever pure Brahman. This step may be compared to Shravana as it acquaints us with the whole problem. So Shravana is listening to the chants, no? It's very nice. This verse clearly identifies what is to be falsified or negated in the process of neti neti. The next two verses go into the specifics of the process. That which has to be falsified is everything right up to the causal body. This means the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body. The self and upadhis, their relative importance. What does it mean to negate the three bodies, that is the gross, subtle, and causal? That which arises from ignorance is to be negated or falsified. By implication, this means all three bodies, as they all rise from Maya or ignorance in association with Brahman. It is not intended here to reduce the value of the functions of the three bodies perform, but merely to see their real value in relation to the absolute truth of our very being, the self. Nothing should presume to take the place of the self. This is important. So nothing should presume to take the place of the self. That is quite clear. However, in the process of establishing the superiority of the self, these upadhis are not to be run down, not to be relegated as worthless, not to be sneered upon as inconsequential. They are simply to be seen for what they are, as instruments of the individual self. So even to reach the self, we need these instruments, the upadhis. It would be against the spirit of Vedanta for the self to proclaim its greatness by chopping off the worth of the other elements of creation, the upadhis. In the hands of the careless student, the verse is open to such incorrect interpretation. Hence, Acharya Ji cautioned us against such a puerile view of the self's greatness. Similarly, when it is said that the self is different from all these, again it is not said in a competitive spirit. The self is not in need of being glorified. The glorification, if any, is only to highlight to the seeker that he should never give undue importance to these upadhis that he is. He should never make them so important in his life that he forgets the self, which is his real nature. The example, Budbudvat Sharam, effervescent bubbles. When it is said that these upadhis are like objects that are perceived and are therefore like bubbles, once again the above comment applies. It is simply to illustrate that they are not dependable in themselves. They have a function to perform in the plan of Maya, but they do not have the qualities of the self, that is, being all-knowing, all-pervading, and timeless. Their existence is like the existence of bubbles, evanescent and fleeting. As bubbles, they may also be viewed as having little significance in the true purpose of life, in relation to the evolutionary purpose of life. For if not utilized for what they were intended, they have a strong tendency to distract us from that purpose, even make us recede from the purpose. If we allow ourselves to be engrossed by the bubbles, we are in the danger of further delusion and bondage in the world. Earlier, the same simile was used to describe the macrocosmic creation of all the worlds. Now it is being applied to the microcosmic existence of the human body, which is just as fleeting as the mighty worlds out there. Anyone want to share any thoughts?
Hari Om, it is so clear. Yad pinde tad brahmande. Whatever is there in the universe, it is there within.
Yeah. And cautioning us to honor the upadhis but not get caught up in them. To not to forget the self and thinking that the upadhi is the self.
Yeah, Gurudev also says, no, you take the boat to go to the other shore, but once the shore has come, you have to leave the boat.
Yeah. Shall I continue for one more verse or? Yeah, I think we can, no? Continue for one more verse. Sheila ji, would you like to read this? Verse 32. Beyond body and sense objects.
Yeah. Devanyatvan me janma jarakarşalaya yadayaha shabdadi vishaye sango nirindriyataya nacha.
I am other than the body. Thus, not for me is birth, wrinkling, senility, death, and so on. With sense objects such as sound, etc., association is nil, as I, the self, am without sense organs. This and the next verse are Manana on the self, wherein we ponder carefully over what we have heard on the upadhis. We reflect seriously about the body and the mind and negate them, that is, go beyond the limitations imposed by them. In this verse, we deal with the gross body and not the body, nor all the associated transactions it has with the world of names and forms. Notice that the emphasis is on the changeability of the body. This is true of the entire gross universe of objects. But we see the effect of that changeability more dramatically when we see it in our own body. As we grow, we encounter 6 stages or modifications which the body undergoes. They are existence, birth, growth, maturity, decay, and death. They are the 6 phases which our body goes through in the course of a life of normal duration. When the body's hold on our attention is loosened, then we begin to free ourselves from the 6 changes that it undergoes, which are inevitable to the body. The real I is seen as a constant background, unaffected by the changing foreground. By retreating into the area of constancy in life, our life no longer dances up and down to the tune of the ever-changing waves of bodily experiences. We do not live with the body as our center. The body is not viewed as the essential part of us. It is there, and we have to take care of it, but it is not the center stage of my life. This is how a seeker of truth begins to reflect and analyze his body and his associated needs. As clearly mentioned in the previous verse, this does not mean that we sneer at the body as some inferior object to be detested. No, such attitude is even suggested even in the straightforward words. I have nothing to do with these sense objects. By negating the gross body, we begin to reduce all the identification with it and finally eliminate it. In this process, our link to the spiritual world within is strengthened. The negation of body includes negation of our senses and all the sense objects that interact with the senses. These would naturally receive the same treatment as the body. They cease to dominate the drama of life. So we'll stop here. Anyone wants to add anything? It's very clear,
My
no?
God, this is ultimate. Yeah.
Pardon?
Ultimate, it is ultimate.
Yeah. When our attachment to the body reduces, the sense attachment to senses also drop. Very nice. Very profound, actually. Okay, we'll
And
stop
be
here.
with the constant. Be with the constant, which is there through and through. Just a flash came that whatever the way, up to what the memory goes down the lane, how really, what was our contribution for this growth in the body? We were going in the school, then college, and then how it is maturing on its own, na? And who is experiencing these changes? That is going to remain forever. More and more, this knowledge should get established into us. Like how
And
we observe when we sow a seed and how it sprouts and then the small sapling comes up and it grows. Exactly the same thing is happening with the body. But then we associate ourselves so closely to the body that we go up and down, up and down. Head is aching, migraine, भूख लग रही है, भूख नहीं लग रही है, ये खाना है, वो खाना है, unending stories of the body. Very nice. अच्छा, ये वाला जो है आत्मबोध का, it is separate on YouTube or the same thing we need to like 1 hour of 1 hour of Nanaji and this thing is separate or in the same episode in
I
the
have no
YouTube?
idea because that is done by Dr. Brahmara. All the
Manana
records.
sessions are separate, my dear.
Okay, thank you. Because in between, mostly on Sundays I miss it because mornings are so busy with the follow-ups and all other things. So Sunday wala I want to go through again this Atma Bodh.
Okay, she must have put it up, or at least it will be with in that Zoom recording. She probably will be sharing it Sunday. I'm not sure. Maybe she's already done it.
Because these verses are extremely powerful and these verses should run all the time in the background in our minds, no? So to really be
Like that
steadfast on this.
Kampura.
Like that.
And when
To
the
become
background is
steadfast.
strengthened, our spiritual spirit is also strengthened.
Yes. And if not now, then when? Abhi nahi to kabhi nahi.
And I have also noticed over a period of time, when the mind has reached some level of maturity, the interest in the unreal kind of drops slowly. It drops.
Yes.
I remember in my 30s, I used to be so attached to getting the best clothes and ornaments and all that. Now that interest is gone.
True. But you know that this our family members they immediately catch it up. Huh? They don't like it at all. Our this kind of attitude, the more it develops, na? Like I went through this online ANP and that silence was so profound within me, and my husband could immediately notice it. The course khatam ho gaya, to bhi that I was so much like suddenly I became so introvert. and happy doing nothing. And he didn't like it at all. They feel insecure at
Absolutely true. I agree. Especially for women and girls.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They are always they as and when they want, they speak or they go into their this thing. Uh, but for us, we need to keep the whole family all together, no? So we need to go out there and speak and take everybody's क्या हुआ क्या नहीं हुआ, बात करो बताओ, और उसमें अपना बहुत टाइम एनर्जी चला जाता है यार.
And we need to
Never.
refuel to silence course.
Yes, yes, very important. Very. We will request Percy Bhaiya one.
When is the Gita starting? Now or after 15 minutes? When is
No,
it?
no, now only, please. Now only.
Now only.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'll stop this and start Gita.
Yes, yes, yes.
Jai Gurudev, what I will do is I will chant that Gita Dhyana Shloka which Chayana used to say, and not Brahmara ji was rendering. I know that much only. I mean, what Chayana used to say. So shall we? Is the voice clear?
Yeah, your voice is clear. I'll just share. We are going to chapter 2, no?
3.
Chapter 3.
Yeah.
3.
Yesterday we completed 1 and 2. So we'll be doing 3.
Okay.
So in the meantime, I will go with the Gita Dhyana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can start Gita Dhyana.
Om Pataya Pratibodhita Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitaamrutavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayiniim Amba Twam Anusandadhami Bhagavad-gite Bhavadveshiniim Namostute Vyasa-vishada-buddhe Pullara-vindaya-tapatra-netra येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवैत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता अथ तृतीयोऽध्यायः। अर्जुन उवाच जायसी चेत् कर्मणस्ते मता बुद्धिर्जनार्दन तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे मां नियोजयसि केशव व्यामिश्रेणेव वाक्येन बुद्धिं मोहयसीव मे तदेकं वद निश्चित्य येन श्रेयोऽहमाप्नुयाम् श्रीभगवानुवाच लोकेऽस्मिन् द्विविधा निष्ठा पुरा प्रोक्ता मया नघ ज्ञानयोगेन साङ्ख्यानां कर्मयोगेन योगिनाम् न कर्मणामनारम्भान् नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोऽश्नुते न च सन्न्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति न हि कश्चित् क्षणमपि जातु तिष्ठत्य कर्मकृत् कार्यते ह्यवशः कर्म सर्वः प्रकृतिजैर्गुणैः कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारः स उच्यते यस्त्विन्द्रियाणि मनसा नियम्यारभतेऽर्जुन कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगम् असक्तः स विशिष्यते नियतं कुरु कर्म त्वं कर्म ज्यायो यत्कर्मणः शरीरयात्रापिचते न प्रसिद्धये कर्मणः यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणोऽन्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्मबन्धनः तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसङ्गः समाचर सह यज्ञाः प्रजा सृष्ट्वा पुरोवाच प्रजापतिः अनेन प्रसविष्यध्वम् एष वोस्त्विष्टकामधुक् देवान् भावयतानेन ते देवा भावयन्तु वः परस्परं भावयन्तः श्रेयः परमवाप्स्यथ इष्टान् भोगान् हि वो देवा दास्यन्ते यज्ञभाविताः तैर्दत्तान् प्रदायैभ्यो यो भुङ्क्तेस्तेन एव स यज्ञविष्ठाशिनः सन्तो मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः भुञ्जते ते त्वघं पापा ये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात् अन्नाद् भवन्ति भूतानि पर्जन्यात् दन्नसम्भवः यज्ञात् भवति पर्जन्यो यज्ञः कर्म समुद्भवः कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवं विद्धि ब्रह्माक्षरसमुद्भवम् तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्म नित्यं यज्ञे प्रतिष्ठितम् एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रं नानुवर्तयति भयः अयाधुरिन्द्रियारामो मोघं पार्थ स जीवति यस्मात् मरतिरेव स्याद आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टस्तस्य कार्य न विद्यते नैव तस्य कृतेनार्थो न कृतेनेह कश्चन न चास्य सर्वभूतेषु कश्चिदर्थव्यपाश्रयः तस्मादसक्तः सततं कार्यं कर्म समाचर असक्तो ह्याचरन् कर्म परमाप्नोति पुरुषः कर्मण्यैव हि संसिद्धिम् आस्थिता जनकादयः लोकसंग्रहमेवापि सम्पस्यं कर्तुमर्हसि यद्यदाचरति श्रेष्ठस्तत्तदेवेतरो जनः स यत्प्रमाणं कुरुते लोकस्तदनुवर्तते न मे पार्थास्ति कर्तव्यं त्रिषु लोकेषु किञ्चन नानवाप्तमवाप्तव्यं वर्त एव च कर्मणि यदि ह्यहनं न वर्तेयं जातु कर्मण्यतन्द्रितः मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः उत्सिदेयुरिमे लोका न कुर्यान् कर्म चेदहन् संकरस्य च कर्ता स्याम् उपहन्यामि मा प्रजाः सक्ता कर्मण्य विद्वांसो यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्याद्विद्वांसतः सक्तश्चिकीर्षु लोकसंग्रहम् न बुद्धिभेदै जनये अज्ञानां कर्म संगिनाम् जो यत्सेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तः समाचरन् प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति न मन्यते तत्वित्तु महाबाहो गुणकर्म विभागयोः गुणागुणेषु वर्तन्त इति मत्वा न सज्जते प्रकृतेर्गुणः सम्मूढाः सञ्जते गुणकर्मसु तान् कृत्स्नविदो मन्दान् कृत्स्नभिन्न विचालये मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतसा निराशेर्निर्ममो भूत्वा युद्धस्व विगतज्वर ये मे तमिदं नित्यम् अनुतिष्ठन्ति मानवाः श्रद्धान्वन्तो न सूयन्तो
मुच्यन्ते तेऽपि कर्मभिः ये त्वेदभ्यसूयन्तो नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम् सर्वज्ञानविमूढांस्तान् विद्धि नष्टान चेतसः सदृशं चेष्टते स्वस्याः प्रकृतेर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रहः किं करिष्यति इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ यतो तयोर्नवशमागच्छेत् तौ यस्य परिपन्थिनौ श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मास्वनुष्ठिता स्वधर्मे निधनं श्रेयः परधर्मो भयावहः अर्जुन उवाच अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पूरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादिव नियोजितः श्रीभगवानुवाच काम एष क्रोध एष रजो गुणसमुद्भवः महाशनो महापात्मा विद्येन्नमिह पैरिणम् धूमेनाव्रियतिर्बह्निर् यथादर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदमावृतम् आवृत्तं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पुरेणानलेन च इन्द्रियाणि मनोबुद्धिः अस्याधिष्ठानमुच्यते एतैर्विमोहयत्येष ज्ञानमावृत्य देहिनम् तस्मात्त्वमिन्द्रियाणायान्यादौ नियम्य भरतर्षभ पाप्मानं प्रजह्येनैः ज्ञानविज्ञाननाशयम् इन्द्रियाणि पराण्याहुः इन्द्रियेभ्यः परं मनः मनस्सस्तु परा बुद्धिर् यो बुद्धेः परतस्तु सः एवं बुद्धेः परं बुद्ध्वा संस्तभ्यात्मानमात्मना जहि शत्रुं महाबाहो कामरूपं दुरासदम् ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे कर्मयोगो नाम तृतीयोऽध्यायः। ॐ श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
Wonderful.
Jai
Very,
Gurudev.
very nice. Very nice, Shilaj.
Belaji, you are continuing or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I will start. May I start, Sumaji? I have my screen. I have my own. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. अथ चतुर्थोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच इमं विवस्वते योगं प्रोक्तवानहमव्ययम् विवस्वानमनवे प्राह मनुरिक्ष्वाकवे ब्रवीत एवं परम्परा प्राप्तम् इमं राजर्षयो विदुः सकाले नेह महता योगो नष्टः परन्तप स एवायं मया तेद्य योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं एतदुत्तमम् अर्जुन उवाच अपरं भवतो जन्म परं जन्म विवस्वतः कथमेतद्विजानीयाम् त्वमादौ प्रोक्तवानिति श्रीभगवानुवाच बहुनि मे व्यतीतानि जन्मानि तव चार्जुन तान्यहं वेद सर्वाणि न त्वं वेत्थ परन्तप अजोऽपि सन्नव्ययात्मा भूतानामीश्वरोऽपि सत् प्रकृतिं स्वामधिष्ठाय सम्भवात्म्यात्ममायया यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानमधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्मसंस्थापनार्थाय सम्भवामि युगे युगे जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्मं नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन वीतरागभयक्रोधा मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः बहवो ज्ञानतपसा पूता मद्भावमागताः ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्त्मा तु वर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः काक्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणाकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारिमपि मां विद्वैकर्तारमव्ययम् न मां कर्माणि लिम्यन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते एवं ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म पूर्वरपि मुमुक्षुभिः कुरु कर्मव तस्मात् त्वं पूर्वतरं कृतं किं कर्मेति कवयोष्यत्र मोहिताः तत्ते कर्म प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात् कर्मणो ह्यपि बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यं गहना कर्मणो गतिः कर्मण्यकर्म यः पश्येत्
अकर्मणि च कर्म यः सबुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्नन् कर्म कृत यस्य सर्वे समारम्भा कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गं नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः निराशीर्यतचित्तात्मा त्यक्तसर्वपरिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वनाश्नोति किल्बिषम् यदुच्छालाभसन्तुष्टो द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः समसिद्धावसिद्धो च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते गतसङ्गस्य मुक्तस्य ज्ञानावस्थितचेतसः यज्ञायाचरतः कर्म समग्रं प्रविलीयते ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्म हविर्ब्रह्माग्नौ ब्रह्मणाहुतम् ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यं ब्रह्म कर्म समाधिना दैवमेवापरे यज्ञं योगिनः पर्युपासते ब्रह्माज्ञावपरे यज्ञं यज्ञेनैवोपजुह्यति श्रोत्रादीनीन्द्रियाण्यन्ये संयमाग्निषु जुह्यति शब्दादीन् विषयानन्य इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्यति सर्वाणीन्द्रियकर्माणि प्राणकर्माणि चापरे आत्मसंयमयोगाग्नौ जुह्यति ज्ञानदीपिते द्रव्ययज्ञास्तपो यज्ञा योगयज्ञास्तथा परे स्वाध्याययज्ञानं यज्ञाश्च यतयः संशितव्रताः अपाने जुह्यति प्राणं प्राणे पानं तथा परे प्राणापानगतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायामपरायणाः अपरे नियताहाराः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्यति सर्वेऽप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः एवं बहु I think 31 is missing. Yeah, 31 please. In mine 31 is not given. यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजो यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम् नायं लोकोऽस्त्ययज्ञस्य कुतोऽन्यः कुरु सत्तमा एवं बहुविद्या यज्ञा वीतता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजान् विद्दितान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद्यज्ञान् ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप सर्वं कर्मखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते तद्विद्वी प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्ष्यन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः। यज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम् एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव येन भूतान्यशेषेण द्रक्ष्यस्यात्मन्यथो मयि। अपि चेदसि पापेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः पापकृत्तमः सर्वं ज्ञानप्लवेनैव वृजिनं सन्तरिष्यसि। यथैधांसि समिद्धोऽग्री भस्मसात् कुरुतेऽर्जुन ज्ञानाग्निः सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा। न हि यज्ञानेन सदृशं पवित्रमिह विद्यते तत्स्वयं योगसंसिद्धः कालेनात्मनि विन्दति। श्रद्धावान् लभते ज्ञानं तत्परः संयतेन्द्रियः ज्ञानं लब्ध्वा परां शान्तिम् अचिरेणाधिगच्छति। अज्ञश्चाश्रद्धानश्च संशयात्मा विनश्यति नायं लोकोऽस्ति न परो न सुखं संशयात्मनः योगसन्न्यस्तकर्माणं ज्ञानसञ्छिन्न संशयम् आत्मवन्तं न कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय तस्मादज्ञानसम्भूतं यत्सं ज्ञानासिनात्मनः छित्त्वैनं संशयं योगाम् आतिष्ठोत्तिष्ठ भारत। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे ज्ञानकर्मसन्न्यासयोगो नाम चतुर्थोऽध्यायः। श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु। हरि ओम्।
Very beautiful.
Jai Gurudev, I might have done so many mistakes in chanting. So I have a small Kshama Yachana shloka that will render and that's it. Yadaksharapadabrashtam matrahinai cha yadbhavet tatsarvaim kshamattam deva नारायण नमोस्तुते विसर्ग बिंदु मात्राणि पदपादाक्षराणि च न्यूनानि चातिरिक्तानि क्षमस्व परमेश्वर क्षमस्व परमेश्वर क्षमस्व परमेश्वर। जय गुरुदेव।
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev, and thank you so much. So beautiful,
Dhanyavad.
both of you. Chanting is.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we will end here today and meet tomorrow.
Jai
Jai Gurudev.
Gurudev.
जय गुरुदेव। धन्यवाद।